a lot of issues arise in our world because of bad sequencing. You don't want your trade standing around. You don't want your team standing around. You want people to be productive. You want your team and your subs to be making money. And the better that you can create a plan moving forward and manage that on the back end, the more profitable everyone's going to be. The happier everyone's going to be, the happier your customers are going to be. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another Midweek Modern Craftsman, where today we are going to be diving deeply into tracking hours during a project to ensure that you are remaining profitable. I've learned over the years through my own business, through consulting with contractors across the country, that money is not made when you sold the project, right? I just sold a $200,000 kitchen. I'm going to make so much money on this. The money is actually made through proper management and systems on the back end of a project. And so many of us lose money due to inefficient management or ineffective systems to ensure that we aren't over-delivering, or under budgeting during a project. So how do you manage your time, your trades, and your projects to ensure that they are not exhausting time, money, and resources on a project that just can't afford it? Another thing that I'm going to dig into real quickly here is what we did this weekend. And we've been polling a bunch of our audience through Modern Craftsman, through our email, and I really appreciate all the responses. And I've gone through all of them, and it's really great feedback, super constructive feedback. A lot of what we know, some things that we don't know, but one of the issues that somebody had is that during midweek, they would rather me not really communicate about what's going on with my family and my personal life, and just really hop to the meat and potatoes of what we're here for. And initially I was like, all right, maybe I could take that into account. And I think for the most part, I don't really get into that except for when I just feel like I want to. So I'm going to stick with doing that. And if that doesn't work for you, you can fast forward through it. But this weekend, and I'm not trying to be a jerk there. I do appreciate the feedback, but at the end of the day, this midweek is just about me, my personal life struggles that I have, my family, what's important to me. And part of that is business. A lot of that overlaps. A lot of it has been lessons that I've learned either through successes as a father, as a husband, as a friend, and also really the trials and tribulations of business. So I think that they do overlap, and it's something that's important to me. So if that's not important to you or you don't want to listen to it, obviously you don't have to. But for the people who do appreciate that and are here for it, I'm going to continue to do that because it's something that means a lot to me. So this weekend we actually went down to DC we went Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for this volleyball tournament. It's called the Capital City Classic, maybe Capitol Hill Classic. It was in DC and it was incredibly huge. So Selby started playing club volleyball this year, and it's her first year. So club may not be the way to, I feel, the proper route to introducing someone to a sport, because club sports are typically fairly intense, but there's just not a huge volleyball support or system in our area. Girls do play it in high school, but really there's no feeder programs. There's no rec program. There's no travel program. So if you want to get into girls volleyball, or I guess probably men's as well, or beach volleyball, you need to basically play a club sport prior to high school. My wife played, so that's one of the reasons why Selby got into it. And it's a really, really cool sport to watch. Like I said, it's my first year. I didn't really know that much about it other than playing in gym class myself. Very fun sport to watch. You can't remain angry or upset for long. It's very fast moving. If you don't do well, you have an opportunity very quickly to come back from it. Just a really cool, exciting, fun sport. But we were down in DC for that. And it's just crazy to see the level of competition and the dedication from these kids at 10, 11, 12 years old. We ended up doing fairly well the first day, and then based on the results from that, they kind of seeded us into brackets the next day, and then the tournament, like a single elimination tournament, the following day. But we did really well the first day and probably beat some teams that we may not have supposed to have beaten, which put us into a much higher grade of bracket. And then we ended up taking some beatings the next few days. But it was most of the teams in other areas of the country are able to start their girls around 10U or younger. So most of the teams that we played that we lost to have had 2-3 years experience, and our girls are probably, most of them are first year players. But this tournament was crazy. It was so huge. So many people. It was at the convention center in DC. They had like multiple floors worth of games, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Like I would say over 100,000 people. It was insane. Like bigger than any professional sports stadium that I've been to, or any college tournament or youth tournament that I've been to. It was insane. The city was packed because of it. It's like a nationwide tournament. There are teams from Puerto Rico there. A really cool experience though. Like I said, I think the girls had a lot of lessons to learn, but that was my weekend. And then we wrapped it up yesterday going to the zoo in DC, which if you haven't been is super cool. It's a national zoo, so it's free. And they had the pandas back. So we went and saw the pandas. Rachel and I used to get tattooed in DC a bunch in Adams Morgan. So we used to go there before we had kids, and we'd go to the zoo. And then right after Selby was born, we actually brought her, but we probably haven't been back in around 10 years. But really nice, pretty zoo. If you're down in that area, go check it out. I have some very exciting news for all of you. The Contractor Coalition Summit is hosting a meetup at IBS and KIBS. So that's going to be Monday, February 24th, 2025. I know we're already into 2025. It's crazy. 6 to 8 p.m. It's at the Nomad at Park MGM, Las Vegas. So this is not a summit. This is not a conference. Honestly, this is just going to be a bunch of people hanging out, open bar, food, and all the drinks that you can enjoy. And you'll have extra because I don't drink, so you can have my drinks. Early bird pricing is live. There will be no tickets at the door. So if you want to go to this, you have to buy them beforehand. I'm posting a link to it on this post. Hop on there now. You're not going to want to miss out on this. Again, no tickets at the door. February 24th, 6 to 8 p.m., Nomad, Las Vegas, which is at the Park MGM. I'll be there. Nick will be there. Brad will be there. Morgan will be there. And a lot of other people. So come check it out. Open bar, food, great hangs, great hanging out. It's really going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there. And let me know if you have any questions. All right, so on to business. If any of you were fast forwarding through that, we're 6 minutes and 30 seconds in, and we're going to pick up with the blog post podcast. So again, this is just kind of what I've learned through consulting through my own business over the years, and how we think that we're going to make so much money because we landed a project at a great price point. And then for me, it was, all right, we're going to start the job and then we just have to complete it. It was always lump sum projects, competitively bid, and we would just work the project through completion and not really understand why we were losing money. And most of it wound up being that I was not budgeting time moving into the project and then managing the amount of time budget on the back end. I was looking to execute to a certain level and quality, and when things went wrong, I was not capturing costs associated with that, and I would end up just over executing and really just investing too much into projects that I wasn't getting compensated for. My clients loved it. I enjoyed doing the work. The project turned out beautiful, but at the end of the job, you're coming up to sub draws towards the end, subcontractor draws and payments, and you wind up like there's not enough money left to pay everyone out, and you've really exhausted the budget and you've exhausted your resources, and you end up just working for free to close this project out. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that. A a lot of people struggle with understanding how long projects should take, how long that certain tasks within those projects should take, and that ends up leading to bad scheduling, cost overruns, your margins getting squeezed. And it doesn't really matter what aspect of the project that is, whether it's drywall, framing, finish work. If you aren't tracking these costs, if you are not budgeting for them up front and then managing what you budgeted for on the back end and aligning that with the scope and the schedule and the quantities of labor that you allocated to these, you're going to end up losing money. So that's something that I've learned over the years, and that I've spoke with a lot of contractors with regard to their business and how I do that and how they can guarantee profitability through their business through having more robust and more comprehensive systems in place. So that being said, if anyone does want to hop on a consulting call, I still am doing them. I'm scheduling them via email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. Limited availability. I try and schedule 1-2 a week max. I just don't have as much time for it. And I have some return consulting clients that I deal with fairly regularly. So if you want to hop on a call, you can shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com, and I can explain what that looks like, the cost of that, and if you are interested or if I can help you in any way. So why does tracking time with your trades and with your own labor, why does that actually matter? Projects don't, you set this, you establish this budget, whether you're lump sum, your cost plus, your competitive bidding, your time material, whatever it is, it all starts with this comprehensive budget. And you create this budget and you create this timeline, which if you aren't, you need to be doing that. But then you start the project, it doesn't just run smoothly. Just because you did all the work up front doesn't mean that it's going to go smoothly. And hey, I built this job on paper. I understand how to do it. Now I just need to put the pieces together. No, things are going to go wrong. Things are going to be different than anticipated. And it's your job to be able to align what you anticipated, what the expectations set forth on the back end to make sure that you are getting paid for the work that you're putting in, and you're not over delivering, you're not over executing, you're not there's not scope creep that you're not getting reimbursed or compensated for. So how to quantify time for each trade as you're moving into it and as you're managing these projects. If you've been in business for a while, you should have some sort of baseline or historical data. Even if you don't, you know what projects you've done and how they worked out and what your numbers look like. You should be tracking all of this. You should be tracking it every single day, regardless of the size of the company you are. If you want to guarantee profitability, you need to track costs every single day and make sure that they align with your budget. Again, lump sum, cost plus, time material, doesn't matter. You need to be tracking it every day. And if you aren't, you're going to be losing money. So you have this historical data which you can lean on to create these budgets and also to understand how to manage them on the back end. Compare what past projects estimates look like versus what you actually put into the job. And you may not be able to capture all of them when you first go into business until you get the processes in place, and it may just be some omissions and errors on your end, but you should be able to track what the project looked like once it's completed and compare that to what you estimated, and you should be able to adjust. You should have benchmarks for tasks for certain projects. What's the baseline price? What's a minimum? Typically, what do they look like for a bathroom, for a kitchen, whatever that may be? So create these baselines and use historical data. And it doesn't need to go back 10, 15, 20 years. It could be historical data from 2 weeks ago or your last project. Just maintain that information so that you can rely on that. You can also use tools and software, digital tools to track, right? So for years, it was just like, hey, I created the budget, we're going to execute the work, and then I have an idea of how long we should take. That didn't fare so well. Even if I felt that I was a premium-based contractor charging a premium-based price, we were still over-executing and over-delivering. So you can use a company like Builder Trend. You can log your trade hours. You can compare them to the projections and the estimates. And if you're a smaller company like myself, I use time tracking software. apps. I use spreadsheets. I use the notes folder in my phone. So you can use whatever system works best for you, but you should be tracking this in a consistent manner and an efficient manner so that you can constantly, every single day, control what's being put and what time is invested and logged into each trade of each job to make sure that you're remaining profitable and you are hitting the margins that you need for your business to survive. So whatever you're using, whether it's Builder Trend, whether it's a time tracking app, whether it is your own generated spreadsheet or template, whatever it is, just maintain consistency with that. Remain diligent with that to ensure that everything's consistent. You also should be establishing benchmarks for certain trades or subcontractors, right? Where it's like, I know that my plumber charges X amount for a 3-piece bathroom remodel regardless, and that's going to take him a minimum of this amount of days. And then you can manage them to that, or you can have that conversation with them. Hey, last time it took you 5 days to rough in this kitchen and first floor renovation. Is this similar to that? Should I budget more time? What are we looking at, so that you can understand how to manage that project on the back end? It may not go exactly according to plan, but at least if you can allocate a certain amount of work to be done each day, you can keep it close and you can also hold that trade accountable. But again, these benchmarks for your trades for certain size projects should all be information that you have at your fingertips. It's not only going to help you budget correctly, but it's also going to set the expectation for the schedule, for your sub trades, for your own management team, to ensure that you're remaining on schedule, on budget, and that you can manage the work effectively. Another way, another big aspect that I find that people miss the mark is running a really efficient job site. And what ends up happening is we're running multiple jobs at a time. You may not have the systems in place. You grew too quickly, and your efficiency really takes a hit. Right? How much planning can you put in place to be able to reduce the downtime on the back end of the project? So a lot of issues arise in our world because of bad sequencing. A trade, overlapped improperly, or somebody came in before the other trade, and then the trade shows up and they're like, well, this was already done. This is the best I can do. So bad sequencing not only creates issues, especially with exterior details and flashings, layouts. When you get into rough in stage, it creates more work, but it can also create it can create a lot of downtime in a schedule, right? If you have sub trades that show up and you're not ready for them, or you had somebody coming to do work that needs to be removed for them to do their project, it's going to cost you more. It's going to look bad. And also it's going to create a lot of frustration and aggravation with your trades. You don't want your trade standing around. You don't want your team standing around. You want people to be productive. You want your team and your subs to be making money. And the better that you can create a plan moving forward and manage that on the back end, the more profitable everyone's going to be, the happier everyone's going to be, the happier your customers are going to be. So plan as much as possible to help reduce downtime with your trades, with your trade partners. Make sure the materials are there when you need them to be there. Don't have your plumber show up and not have the rough-in valves there, or I like to have cabinets there if possible, so that as we're laying things out on a smaller project, we know exactly what's going in. There's no guessing. You don't have to figure it out on the back end. Another huge thing is to set time expectations with trades. This can also be in-house, right? And we spoke about this with Nick. If I send somebody to a job and I say, hey, you just need to install all these cabinets, there's no basis for them as far as what needs to be done, the level it needs to be done. So if I say, hey, all these cabinets need to be scribed to the wall, scribed to the floor. There's no fillers. There are no moldings. We're not going to be covering everything. It needs to be done really well. I know this is going to take a while, so I budgeted plenty of time for you. I gave you 6 days for this install, and I walked through what those 6 days look like to them. and explain to them, hey, there's some downtime in here because I know that, this is going to have to take 2 and 3 putts to get it in. I clearly communicate the amount of time that they have, the expectation each day. So the program is stressing, hey, you have enough time to do this. This is the amount of time, but I also need it to be done really well, and that we're not hiding anything with trim. It's all scribed in. So they understand what's important to me. If I have a job where the most important aspect of this project is getting it done, I can say, hey, listen, I know this is a lot of cabinets here. This type of job, we're going to be putting trim on. We're going to be hiding everything. We really need to get these in and out, and we need to get our countertops templated. We have 3 days to install this kitchen. So everything, it's not, the molding's not going to be scribed to the ceiling. It's not going to be, we're going to hide the back of the cabinets with fillers. That's just the case. I'm stressing that, hey, you have 3 days to do this. So they understand, what, we're not going to try and scribe all these cabinets in and spend 5 days installing cabinets where the client only paid for a 3-day install and for fillers and for scribe moldings. So I'm not paying for over execution on a project that doesn't have the budget for it. And you should be doing this with all your subcontractors well, right? Have the conversation about what are you budgeting for, what your needs are, what the client's needs are, what the expectation is as you budget for the project, and then managing them on the back end to ensure the expectation aligns with the execution. Once you begin to hold your trades really accountable to this, it actually frees them up because they don't have as many questions. They understand what they need, what needs to be done, how long they have to do it. And if you consistently check in with them and hold them accountable, things are going to get done, right? If you drag them out, or if the sub drags them out and nobody's checking on them, then you come in, they've already packed up and left, and you say, well, this isn't really to spec. This isn't how I need it. You have to get them back in. Now you can't get the countertops templated. It drags on. Your overhead costs more on the project. If you can't allocate that overhead to a client because it's something that they did, that might be overhead that you're burning that you have to pay for. So it pays to hold your trades accountable, to constantly check in with them, to make sure that everything's written down and explicit so that there's no gray area and you're not doing things 2 and 3 times. I can guarantee my profitability by managing and tracking my job and budgeting for a job very explicitly from the beginning stage of the job through the end of the state, through the completion of the project. Excuse me. Sounds like I've never spoke before. So the more accurate I can be up front, the more surprises on the back end. So I spend the time through pre-construction to develop these comprehensive schedules, these comprehensive timelines, budgets, scope, so that on the back end, everyone can manage it according to what we budgeted. And if things aren't exactly how we stated, we either have access to change orders, more money, we can move money around in the budget and work with the client's program to meet their needs. I should be able to use all of the things that we've stated to create a fairly accurate timeline and schedule and budget moving into a project. And I should know some of the pinch points and bottlenecks of my system and of my team, right? If there's certain aspects of my system or team where we typically run into issues, I'm not going to overlap a bunch of sub trades there. I'm going to understand, hey, this is one area which always takes longer, and I'm going to note that, and I'm going to account for that moving forward, right? If I have a specific aspect of, right, paint is typically longer than anticipated because we run into issues or it just doesn't always go as smoothly as possible, I want to make sure that everyone knows that moving in, everyone accounts for that moving through the project, so that we can manage that project effectively. But the big thing for me here, again, is being very comprehensive and diligent in managing our projects and our sub trades and holding them accountable. Whether you're using software, spreadsheets, time tracking apps, it needs to be internal, and it needs to be with your sub trades as well. A lot of times we think, hey, our subs gave us a price, that's the price. If it takes them longer, whatever, it's not money out of our pocket. But again, you're burning overhead. It doesn't look great for the clients. Now you're you're flip-flopping trades on the back end, and then you have whether it's a drywall or an insulator that, well, we don't have a full day to devote to that because now you pushed us out a week, so we can come for a half a day here and then a half a day there, and then your PM or your supers running back and forth to the job. It just creates these inefficiencies. And also, a lot of times when things don't go as planned, you cannot capture those costs on the back end because the inefficiencies you can't account for. You can't necessarily charge a client because something took a third longer than anticipated because the guys or the girls who you put on the job weren't able to spend their time efficiently there, right? That's something that you're going to have to eat. So if you can manage these projects more effectively on the back end, that's where you're going to make your money. Again, you sign a kitchen for 200 grand, that should make you plenty of money based on how much you're spending on cabinets and what your numbers look like. But if you don't have a comprehensive budget to manage on the back end of that project to make sure, hey, my electrician has 5 days to get this done. My plumber has 4 days to get the rough end done. We have X amount of days for inspections. If you don't manage that on the back end, right? The demo, how many dump trailers or how many dumpsters you're going to have, how much site protection you have. If you don't manage that, account for that, gauge that, assess that, and adjust that moving forward to create historical data for you, there's no way to guarantee your profitability on a project. So understanding what the project should look like from the outset is one thing. You can make money selling a $200,000 kitchen, but that money is not made signing that contract and taking a deposit. That money is made on the back end to ensure that the project goes according to what you budgeted, what the expectation was set forth, with a timeline, with a budget, and with the scope. That's where you're going to make the money on that project. So put the systems in place, build the systems out to help you not only quantify those rates going into the project, but to make sure that you track them on the back end. I do most of my work T&M now. So I create a budget and then I manage that T&M every 2 weeks on the back end. I've spoke about this before in previous podcasts, but I always say if I were to go back to competitively bidding, or I was going to go back to lump sum projects, I would do the exact same thing as I do now, right? I would create this comprehensive budget. And then as we're putting work in place, I would be managing it on a daily basis to ensure my profitability and ensure that we aren't over executing or there's no scope creep or we're not putting work in place that it's not equitable work. So it wouldn't really change for me. And it should be the same for cost plus, time, material, lump sum, whatever it is, you should be doing that same thing. Again, ensuring your profitability on the back end of a project by actually managing it day to day, hour to hour, and ensuring that your budget aligns with the work that's getting put into place. Even if there's time overruns or cost overruns, now you have some sort of basis or benchmark to put those numbers up against to be compensated for, or reduce scope on the back end, or take a different path forward to ensure that you are not putting equity into this project that the client is not paying for. I hope that this helps you all understand how I guarantee profitability on my projects. Again, it's amazing to sign these great projects up front with these budgets that you feel are accurate. But if you don't manage them on the back end appropriately, they may or may not make you money. And I would rather have systems in place to be able to manage all the work, all the schedule, all my sub trades, all my vendors on the back end and guarantee the margins that I really accounted for and depend on moving forward, the overhead that I can bear on a project like this based on the amount of time that I'm estimating for it. I would do that. I would manage on the back end every single day to guarantee those numbers, to guarantee those margins, to guarantee my profitability. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Go on the website, check out the blog post, moderncraftsman.co. If you have any volleyball questions, or you want to know more about my weekend, let me know. Nick and I have a bunch more stuff that we're looking to put out soon. If you guys need anything, I appreciate all the emails, all the feedback, all the insight, everyone who's purchased courses, everyone who's signed up for the email list. If you have not signed up for the email list, go under moderncraftsman.co. You can sign up there. At the bottom, there's a bunch of pop-ups. You can get a pre-construction agreement for free. You can get a labor burden for free. You can get how to craft a perfect email pitch for free. You can also go on the Instagram page, and all of these downloads are through the link tree on our profile. So there's a million ways that you can get all of this stuff for free, and sign up for our email list. As we work through that, as we navigate that path, we will really dial that in to just be giving you information that's pertinent to you. Appreciate all your patience as we've tried to figure this out. It's been a process for us, just like everything else. And I will catch all of you next week.